are Borg. You will be assimilated.
I am Locutus of Borg. Resistance is futile. Your life, as it has been, is over. From this time forward, you will service us.
Well, hailing frequencies open, set phasers to stun. Greetings and felicitations from Trelane. Live long and prosper. We come to serve. Broadcasting from across multiple universes, time and space, and all the way to the very alien state of California. Welcome to another episode of the Shaku Brothers.
All right, great to be here.
Hello.
Hello. There's a reason for all this. Bear with me a sec. So yeah, reason I started with that intro is we have an interesting topic for this evening, something a little bit different. It's a discussion that was inspired through our weekly Dharma study, and yeah, so basically it's we got talking about Amida's call, the calling of Amida, the working of Amida, the vow of Amida Buddha, the primal vow, and how all of that works in Shinjin. And the thought occurred to us is how much choice is there actually involved in the process of Amida's working and Amida's call? How much choice do beings actually have about that? And how much worth is their choice anyway, being bamboos, being unenlightened, ignorant, foolish beings, full of blind passions, etc. What worth is our choice, really? But anyway, so that's kind of the topic. If you guys want to frame that a little bit differently, please come on in and do that. But that's kind of the gist of what we're going to be discussing today. So
yeah, it's a great topic.
It is, yeah. So certainly a very interesting topic, because I've always thought that that ultimately all sentient beings will be saved. Ultimately speaking, and it was always a matter of when and not if. However, the problem seems to be that gets in the way of that process is us, and surely that's a choice made out of ignorance. But as Amida's light works, if you see what I mean, I've always thought there was still the option to say, well, not yet or whatever, but Amida the Buddhists continue with their skillful means until you finally say yes. If you see what I mean. I don't know how far off or how right that is, but it's not like you say no, then they give up. It's like, for example, the Lotus Sutra. You've got these two groups of people. Both of them took poison. One group took the antidote to the poison more or less immediately, whilst the other group refused. And so, was it a father or a physician, had to go off and came up with another method. He pretended to die, basically, and came up with another method to get the second group to say yes. Do you see what I mean? It was a skillful means thing, rather than the idea of, somehow we're just all automatons and all that type of stuff. It was more sort of like, you go through the whole skillful means process until you will finally say, it's your choice to say yes. That's probably wrong, but that's the impression I had of the whole thing. Is that
Yeah, I would say that's probably right. That was a great description.
Okay.
I really love that. I agree with everything you said. So.
Oh wow! Okay.
Absolutely, all beings. My view as well is, all beings will ultimately be saved. I mean, that's very clear. And then, but it has to be, like you said, the Buddha uses the skillful means. So it can't be some sort of commands fiat thing. It's
No.
like Shinran Shonin says, the Buddha's guidance of each and every being is non-exclusive guidance. So Amida, the Buddha, the Tathagata, is constantly teaching, guiding, working with every being individually on a one-to-one level. It's like,
Yes. Yeah.
and so, again, the skillful means, as you said, like in the Lotus Sutra, that is exactly, I would say, what comes into play. And I remember there was a Australian Shin Buddhist named Harold Stewart. He actually helped with the translation of the 3 Pure Land Sutras by Inagaki Sensei. And he said, in Christianity, it says, many are called, but few are chosen, right? But in Jodo Shinshu, all are called, and all will eventually be chosen.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, it's such a different.
I totally agree with that.
Well, my one of the thoughts I have about it is there's a lot of sort of statements in Shinran's writings or other writings that he comments on, and that talk about, or even I think even in the sutras, that will say, Amida makes beings to hear the name, commands beings to hear the name, makes them to become in such a way that they'll, be receptive, or I can't remember. But I do remember a lot of those phrases where it says Amida makes beings to such and such, like we're being made to, and also the other part of that is a big part of the Jodo Shinshu teaching is we can't do it. We can't do it. We can't even make ourselves do it. We can't. So we need to be made to have a sincere mind. We need to be made to have, to entrust. We need to be made to have Shinjin, to have the. Do you know what I mean? We can't do it ourselves. We can't bring ourselves to Pure Land. We can't we can't clear the mind stream. We can't create the mind state that would be conducive to going to Pure Land. We can't do any of that. So we do need to kind of be made to do it, I'll say this just for me. Parts of me is kind of like, you know what? If it did involve brainwashing of some kind by Amida Buddha, bring it on. Wash it. Wash it clean. Let the rivers of the ocean of the Dharma flow through this mind stream and clear it, like, completely. Like, please. Anyway.
I think the only thing my the only thing that I have about that, I said I don't like the idea of there's kind of like a flavour of coercion about that sort of approach, where if you look at it from a point of view of skillful means, like for example in the Lotus Sutra, those two groups that took the poison, the physician didn't jump on the second group and force it down their throat and say, right, you're going to take this antidote. He went off and came up with another method to get them to say yes, rather than coerce them into. Do you see what I'm saying? In that way, I could see it as being, we're made to. If you, otherwise, you kind of like get this idea. It's all sort of like a matter of being forced into stuff. And I see where you're coming from, Gankai, because frankly, if I wanted anybody at all to force me into anything, it'd be a Buddha to force me into skin.
I mean, exactly. Let me just say this, okay? Let me preface all of this by saying I'm being kind of the Mara's advocate. I'm being the yaka. I'm being the yaksha's advocate here in asking these questions, these challenging questions. The Buddhist equivalent of the the questioner.
Can I say something about that particular question or issue?
Sure.
And I think, because I was thinking about this on my way over here. I was walking to the cafeteria. And I was thinking about the way some of the metaphors that we use, or are used in the sacred text to describe the awakening of Shinjin. And Shinran talks about his heart and mind, flowing into the Buddhas, into the ocean of the vow. He talks about being grounded on the earth, what does he say? The base of the Buddha's mind. He talks about, and then we've mentioned a lot before the metaphor of water flowing over rock, right? And then also, you have to remember, when it comes to choice and free will and all of that, we are beings by definition. We're bound by the kleshas. These, we are not free beings. The free beings here is the Buddha, right? And the Bodhisattvas. They are free, but we are not. Yeah. And so, being bound by the kleshas every day, we are craving, ignorance, aversion. Those are the things that fuel our existence, and from top to bottom. And so the degree to which we can truly choose what is, good for us and so on is severely, I think, limited. And that's where I think Shinran, Shonin, and Shin Buddhism has a very realistic kind of point of view. And because we are, ignorant and we are driven by our ego, we can't even see the light, as Genshin Kasho says. My eyes are blinded, and even though the light is shining, the light of wisdom, infinite in its resplendence, is shining all around me, I can't see it because my eyes are blinded by blind passion, by the kleshas. So that's where it says, Amida, instead of seeing the light, he makes us hear his name. That's the call of Namo Amida Butsu, right? So it's the ultimate skillful means. It's not that it's some sort of forcing us, but it's the call. And when we actually hear that call from the depths of our being, we cannot but respond. We cannot but awaken the mind to rely on the working of that vow. And it's not something that we have to cognate and make, process with our monkey minds, if you will. It's a spontaneous, natural response or reaction to the working of the light and the calling of the vow. So in that sense, I think skillful means is a good, description.
Yeah. I'd go with that, definitely. Yeah. Because when you think, if you think about it, that's why I like the Lotus Sutra, because it goes through all these different parables, and the whole thing just seems to be built based on how the Buddhas go about this with the skillful means thing. And they're like the burning house one, which Shinran makes references to. He continuously talks about the burning house, Saha-Universe, the burning house. In order to get those kids or the people out of that burning house, they had to he had to use this, he came up with something which he knew they would run out to come look at. So he was using their psychology, what he knew and understood about the way their minds work, to bring them out. That's, to my... So, they made that choice to come out. I understand that, but perhaps not. They wouldn't have done if, because his original warning to them, that house is on fire, get out of there, was ignored. They completely ignored it.
Yeah.
And just carried on playing with their toys in the middle of an inferno. They carry on playing with their toys, which goes to show just how ignorant we really are and blasé of the actual reality of our situation. But when he used the skillful means of coming up with these, was it 3 carts? And
yes, of the different
3 carts, they couldn't resist it because he'd done it in such a way that he knew that they couldn't resist it.
Exactly. That's what I was going to bring that up. I was going to bring up that very parable. The skill and means. We're already bound by our ignorance and kleshas and that. So we, that skill and means, but it's still. It's basically using our ignorance for our good. Kind of. It's using our, they're using our ignorance to our advantage. I say they, Amida and all Buddhism Bodhisattvas working for Amida. Amida uses our ignorance in all its various forms to our advantage for us. And it's actually the opposite, really. We're being freed, ultimately, from having already been assimilated, in a sense, by our own, by samsara, by our own ignorance, by our own causes, to, by our own actions, without even knowing it, for countless lifetimes. And get worsening and worsening and worsening. But it's just, it does seem like it, it is inevitable though, all beings will, that is the vow. That is the reality.
Yeah, I think that's a very important point. Because in the Yanjin Ketsujo show, which is a text that Rinyo Shonin very highly regarded, it says exactly that very clearly, that Amida vowed that all beings will attain enlightenment, be born in the Pure Land. That was the vow. That was the basis. That was his original vow. And so that vow being fulfilled, has already been fulfilled. And so there's no doubt about the birth of all beings in the Pure Land. What the question is when do they awaken to?
Yes.
Because everyone has that, So it's a question of timing, not of ultimate outcome, right? In the working out of the power of the vow, which is the fulfilled, virtues that are working in the vow. So.
Absolutely, yeah.
Then there's the other end of it is, Amida bringing us it, in this lifetime, we've had the great fortune karmically to be born as humans and to encounter the Buddha Dharma and ultimately to encounter Jodo Shinshu, to encounter Amida and Amida's Dharma. But that, part of all that is the good, the stored good from the past, which is also Amida's good. Amida's good. It's due to Amida that we're now encountering Amida. Encountering a good teacher, encountering the Dharma, being able to deeply listen, being able to read the teachings, and it being all that being illumined by Amida. So it started a long time before now. The influence of Amida. So again, it's kind of how much choice do I have in that? Do you see what I mean? And I suppose it's choice. This is part of the problem. We're asking the question from choice from a standpoint of an ignorant, foolish being. The idea of choice for us, like for what the real choice, the real reality, and the true mind, and the sincere mind, and the true freedom is nirvana, is the Buddha mind, is like, so we can't, so you know, us saying choice is like, what are we even saying? You know, as ignorant beings, you know.
Yeah, I mean, in a lot of
you're still on mute
sorry.
there, Kyokan. If you're trying to say something, you're still on mute.
Oh no, there's cars driving by, so I'm just
Okay.
trying to mute when I'm not
Cool.
talking to kind of block out.
I thought you were trying to. Go ahead, Jason. What do you think?
It's the three poisons and blind passion sort of reminds me of a drug addiction. Basically, we have been completely addicted to these for endless, since the beginning of this past. And when you think about it, I think drug addiction is actually a very good way of looking, because drug addicts, when you're truly addicted to something, you don't have any choice except to follow, the pull of that addiction. So you're enslaved to it. And I guess, the way I see...
Like a preta. Like a preta, like a ghost. Like a being in the ghost realm. Anyway.
So really, I mean, our choices are kind of like within that, we're not free from it. In fact, we don't become free of that particular addiction to the three poisons until we're born in the Pure Land. So it's going to take, it does take one heck of an intervention from the Buddhists who are not addicted. They are completely free, and the only ones that are completely free, to come along and sort of like do that intervention in through skillful means and that sort of thing. That's just the way I kind of like look at it.
That is I absolutely love that insight, that it's like an addiction. That is exactly true. And so seeing it like that, you can see we're not free. We are enslaved to these blind passions. The Buddha is the one who, like you said, like an intervention, through skillful means, wakes us up, frees us, wants to give,
wants to bring us,
it's like wants to bring us to recovery,
to the treatment,
full
to the
recovery,
treatment center, to the Pure Land treatment center.
And the Dharma, so that is exactly, I absolutely love that insight. I think that actually kind of answers the question to a large degree.
Yeah.
The medicine is the freedom. Medicine will ultimately give us the choice. We have no choice. We really have no. I mean, really, as Bumba, we don't. We have. I suppose, on the practical kind of mundane level of things.
Yeah, but it's like a choice between. It's the constant choice between which of the three poisons we're going to suck down today.
Exactly. And you do have to remember.
And which poison are we going to use for this? Are we going to use the poison of our wisdom or the poison of our foolishness to make this decision? Which poison are we? Which poisoned, aspect of our personality are we going to try to use to make this decision about this life, this life decision, or this practical decision? Anyway.
And somehow in our poisoned infinite wisdom, even get to think, if we can, transfer our merit, it's poisoned good, but so I mean, there's absolutely nothing that we can do to get out of this. It has to be 100% Amida, and the Buddhism, however this actually does work. So I imagine it's probably a heck of a lot more complicated but it has to be the Buddhas and whatnot that break through to us, slowly wearing over countless lives like water from that stone. I mean, the process of getting us to where we are now in this particular meeting probably started several countless lifetimes ago.
Oh yeah,
exactly.
Well,
that was the point.
Exactly.
That was the point I was making. Earlier was the work of Amida started in our provisional existences, going back, however long it's been happening. At least 10 kalpas, know, somewhere in the last 10 calendars, as it were.
And you do have to remember too, you know, the basic aspiration of all beings is for enlightenment, is for all beings want to be happy, want to be free, want to be want peace, you know, to be at peace and not have turmoil and suffering. And so, although that aspiration is hidden and, you know, papered over by our kleshas, by our delusions and blind passions and the way we see the world wrongly from our egocentric point of view, but it's still, you know, all beings have Buddha nature, right? And so, I mean, that's the basic teaching in Mahayana Buddhism. And so, you know, when you remember that, it's a question of, you know, removal of those kleshas so that our true wish, you know, for Buddhahood can be set free, realized, you know, that's what the Buddhas are, that's the work they're doing, right? And of course, in Jodo Shinshu, you know, Shinran says that Shinjin is Buddha nature.
Right, so I was just thinking
so,
of that,
yeah. And so even, we don't have to puzzle out, we don't have to like polish up our Buddha nature in the way they do in Zen, right? Everything comes from Amida. So Amida's mind, which we receive, is for us, you know, Buddha nature. So that's
we don't need to polish our mirror day and night, as that the Lotus Sutra says that, or is it just the Nichiren Buddhists say that, polish your mirror? I mean, that's a metaphor used in a lot of different schools of Buddhism.
Exactly. That may have come from
it's Amida that does the polishing of, you know, rubble into gold for us.
Right.
We don't need
yes.
We don't need to worry about to worry about polishing our mirror, because Amida is polishing our rubble into gold. You know.
Turning rubble into gold, exactly. And I believe that it was a Chinese patriarch of the Zen school who said, a student said, you know, there's dust on my mirror. It's the idea that the mind is originally here. And then the student said, well, but there's all these specks of dust, you know, I keep all this stuff on my mind, you know, and then the teacher says, well, keep polishing the mirror, you know? So that's obviously the self-power, the path of sages route of having to, you know, work on your mind. But in Shinshu, you know, we don't do that. We don't worry about our mind, and
Amida works on our mind. Amida works
exactly.
On our mind.
And Amida gives us his mind.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, our mind's out of the equation.
Exactly.
Which is kind of another aspect of this thing, you know. You know, it's the important thing is the Buddha's mind. Us being given the Buddha mind, us being given his sincere mind, because we lack the sincere mind.
Yeah.
We lack the mind of that. We have a mind of doubt because we bumble, and that doubt isn't just in the media. That doubt is we can't see the truth. That doubt doubt means we can't see the truth at all, like at all. And not only can we not see it, it's like completely like what we see is completely in front of us, totally distorted. So our mind isn't is just there to be changed. That's really all. Like, do you know what I mean? Anyway. Our heart mind. I
do want to say too.
Our heart mind is there to be turned.
Exactly. Yeah. I do want to say about the aspiration too. Is remember, you know, that aspiration we have originally is Shinran states that, you know, it's really Amida Buddha's aspiration that is true and real, and our aspiration is not, you know, on the same level, and so. The Buddha's wish for us to be free is what is true and real, and that is the true working of compassion. And our own aspirations are, you know, hit and miss.
Yeah, exactly. Aren't worth anything. It's not worth anything.
Yeah.
But this is another thing where it comes, the topic comes in here. It's Amita's wish. It's Amita's mind. It's Amita, making us to trust. It's, you know what I mean? And that's not a bad thing. It's actually a very good thing. In Jodo Shinshu, this is the flip. This is the Jodo Shinshu flip, of assimilation is, of the flip, it's not a sinister thing. It's an actually really amazing, incredible, inconceivable, wonderful, thing,
and liberating and freeing.
Liberating.
We want to be freer and closer on the road to nirvana, right?
And so, I'm quite happy if I don't have a heck of a lot of actual real choice in that. If that's what I'm being given,
Now, I do think really... on a practical level, of course, it's very important that we have choice with regard to, religion, and of course we have choice in freedom and so on, right? And so, like if a teacher tells you, exactly,
such as it is, yeah,
exactly. So a lot of cults and cult-like groups, try to like limit what you do or say or read or in that kind of thing, and that's not a good thing, right? So we have choice as human beings to pursue our own, path, right? That's very important, and I think that's distinguished from the topic we're discussing here, which is more about the working of Shinjin and awakening, right?
But it does come in here. It does definitely come into the discussion. I mean, Shakyamuni taught study broadly. He taught us to study broadly, not narrowly, not just read just this, not just keep it, this simple so that you don't get, he studied broadly. And it was investigate yourself. So there is in Buddhism in general, in any school of Buddhism, that's a lot of responsibility that you have, to take action, to make the decision to study broadly and to investigate it for yourself, and prove the teachings for yourself, or allow the teachings to be proven to you, however you want to put that. But I mean, I suppose ultimately it's Amida for us that proves all of that for us. But there is a teaching and a responsibility for us as Buddhists to study as broadly as possible within our limitations, karmically speaking, and our situations karmically, and to investigate, that. So that does take initiative. You have to make a decision to do that, I suppose. But and that ultimately leads you from the Buddhist path to Amida, to Jodo Shinshu. That me anyway. That's kind of how it went. When you start to match up the reality of your situation with what these practices, and how inept you are at these practices, and how incapable you are, and how you don't get any results from it, and you know what I mean, and you just realize, okay, well, now I have investigated this, and I've studied a lot of different forms of Buddhism and other 95 non-Buddhist ways, and the teachings about Pure Land and Amida Buddha seem to be what's true. That's kind of what was for me, but so it does seem like there's some level of personal decision making there based on your situation, I guess. Obviously helped all of that illumined,
right? Absolutely, yeah,
and sort of coaxed along by Amida,
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, we don't become, zombies, or it's not like mind control, right? And also, the one of the qualities of nirvana in Mahayana is self, right? And self here means free working of uninhibited by blind passion. So again, kind of reinforcing that theme that being a Buddha is to be free from the addiction, from the and that is the ultimate goal, right?
It's freedom from suffering. It's the suffering and the end of suffering. Suffering,
and the causes of
samsara, and death and rebirth. That's all the bondage. That's the
exactly
lack of choice. That's the imprisonment. The end of suffering, nirvana. Is the freedom.
Yeah.
Well, that's sorry, I interrupted.
Go ahead.
No, all I was going to say was that's where I think the comparison to being a drug addiction is really quite works rather well, because our idea of happiness and bliss at this point is to take more drugs. So we think that's the best. That we don't really know true happiness or bliss, because we've never been free of. We've not had any experience of that. We've not really known that. We've never known that freedom. So our first taste of true happiness and bliss will be that freedom in the Pure Land. When we're free from this addiction and whatnot. The other thing is that the happiness and bliss doesn't really lead you into real happiness and bliss from the drugs. It leads into more suffering. Do you know what I mean? Just like a drug addiction does. You may feel good at the time, but it doesn't end too well.
Yep, exactly. It entangles you in further. It's just everything we do here entangles us further in it. Further mires us in it.
Well, gentlemen, I do probably have to sign off shortly. I noticed that my battery is a limited.
No problem. I think we've almost
becoming
gone for
quite
an hour.
limited.
I think we're pretty much surrounded it, actually.
We have almost gone for an hour. So, is there anyone else would like to kind of add or share or ask or?
No, I think it's.
Speak up.
Yeah, this is a great discussion. I think that it's a very important question. It's certainly a question I have had as well. It's I think an important issue to address.
As do I.
Yeah.
So thank you very much, guys. This has been a really good discussion. Definitely, I agree. Very worthwhile, and definitely worth more discussion. I think at some point, perhaps, and maybe we'll find some gems in Shinran's writings or Renyo's writings at some point that specifically kind of speak to this, knock us over the head at some point. I'm sure.
There's certainly plenty in there's plenty in the Anjin Ketsutra show. There's loads of passages.
Definitely.
It's brilliant.
Yeah. So I'm sorry we didn't come. None of us really had the time. We were planning this to come prepared with selections of writings as we usually do. But anyway, perhaps next time.
Certainly, yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Well, thanks again, guys. This has been great, and I hope you continue to enjoy your time in America and California.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
You can.
I certainly will, and I do want to say, is this how we say, live long and prosper?
Exactly. Live long and prosper. And then, Namo Amida Butsu.
And Namo Amida Butsu.
Take care. All the best.
Take care.
Hailing
Thanks.
frequencies closed.